I love that talk you gave. I don't know you, and that was really amazing. And I have the most coincidental. I mean, I've never talked about this ever in my life. My father made cigars, so he went to Cuba frequently. He had a closet that rolled into his room at the Nacional, and he traveled with just a little teeny bag, no bigger than this little bag, because his clothes he left there as Guayaveras, they were cleaned and brought back to his room when he came to the Nacional. So I went when I was a child to Cuba, went once when I was 16, and I was there in my room. And we used to stay at, there was a cabana down by the pool that Mama came to, which was Mama Hemingway, Papa and Mama Hemingway. We used to see them. And one night I went to sleep and there was so much noise, just the room next to my room. I couldn't sleep. And it was Ava Gardner. And it was not Frank Sinatra. She was there with a bullfighter who was her boyfriend at the time. This is crazy to hear your story. I mean, just nuts. So, I never started to talk that way. Three questions have been asked of me since I've been here, and I want to answer those three questions. How come you're not fat, and how did you take off weight? And what about your city project, your 1920-21 project? And the third question is, why are you dressed up in white? Those are not equally important questions. But I will answer them quickly. And then one question was just asked of us by the last speaker was, who do you think you are? And that was a question that this young man over there who used to work for Business Week, or still does, asked me last year. And it was somewhat planned, but somewhat not planned. It was an okay interview. But you see, I'm not being interviewed this year. I don't much like being interviewed because I value questions too much. I really value the question. And that's why I created the TED conference and the EG conference and the TED Med conference, all these conferences, and I never have questions from the audience. And it's because I value questions so much. Because half of all the questions are bad questions, and the other half are speeches. And I don't think the audience should be, their time should be wasted by audience questions. Now, if I asked you all, would you rather ask questions than not, you would all want to ask questions because you like that feeling of power and interrupt us and all that stuff, and you like that, but you're wrong. Anyway, you asked me who did I think I was, and I made me think about that, and I came up with this answer, which I just told again at a speech last week in Chicago. I started with that, and I said, it was to a bunch of young graduate students at IIT, and I said, I'm the tango. I'm the dance, the tango. The tango is erotic, romantic, violent, very ordered. The partners hardly touch. There's great tension. It's quite beautiful. It's very personal, but impersonal, because you don't look at your partner. And I feel that I'm both partners. And one partner is curiosity, and the other is ignorance. So who I am, or what my unique characteristic is that I am much more attuned, I have much more of a continuous embrace with my ignorance than anybody else in this room. I know how ignorant I am, and you people don't, about yourselves. You don't know how stupid you are. And it's by embracing that utter, Zen-like, vacuous land of zero that is the only healthy way to begin any thinking about a project. I am void when I begin to think about anything and everything. Even when I meet you casually, I am blank. Now, there are two other partners that I could be, and one is confidence and the other is terror. And I am always terrified, and I am always confident. And they could be the other two partners in the dance. The terror, we always try to be drummed out of us by our parents and our so-called teachers. I don't very much like teachers or school or the word education. I like the word learning, and I like the word guide. And it's not trivial. I'm not just trying to be, counterintuitive or be clever and make up my own thing so I can sell a book called Tipping or Tipping Point or something that becomes something. No, I really believe that you should be guided through your interest, not taught by an educator. And I believe confidence is good because it allows you to do something. It doesn't make you arrogant if it's kept under control by your terror. And terror is not a bad thing. It's the edge. It's the edge. I think the best speakers have a balance of terror and confidence. And I've seen 1,000, and that's not a ridiculous number. It's not like saying, oh, millions and millions of things. No, I've seen about 1,000 speakers in my conferences. And the good ones had that in balance. When their terror overcame their confidence, they were lousy. And when their confidence overcame their terror, they were lousy. But in balance, in a kind of yin-yang balance, they're really, really quite good. I wear white because it's showbiz. I can show up here, and that's all the reason I wear white. It's no big deal. I chose this scarf in homage to the elephant because I liked that elephant yesterday. I have a lot of scarves. And I always wear a scarf at conferences because it's showbiz. I'm supposed to wear a scarf, I wear a scarf. I don't wear a scarf every day when he comes over to visit me. I don't have a scarf on, you know. I wear shoes every day. Last year I talked about a project that I was working on called 1920-21. And I'll just give you a brief update of good and bad news. For those of you who don't know, I'll do it really rapidly, and most of you will not believe some of what I say or care about it, and that's okay. 1920-21 is a clever title. It's not a scientific title. The project is about 19 cities of the world that will have more than 20 million people in the 21st century. 1920-21. More people live in cities than don't live in cities. I can't understand the cities. What I mean by that is no two cities in the world. Now you have to take this. It's absolutely true. I am not going to prove it to you now. But if you want to prove it to yourself afterwards, if you're interested enough, you'll see that I'm correct. No two cities in the world do their maps to the same scale or with the same legends or ask the same questions or collect the information in a similar way, and there is no agreed upon methodology of the border of a megalopolis, of an agglomeration. There just doesn't exist. The UN doesn't have it, and the CIA doesn't have it. National Geographic doesn't have it. The biggest map maker in the world, ESRI, does not have it. There is no agreed upon way of doing a border around the city. Why is that important? Well, maybe it isn't to you. If you're on a grocery store, it's not so important. It's important to me just because it's interesting to me to understand something, and you only understand something relative to something you understand. Glib, but true. You only understand something relative to something you understand. If you look up on the web what the largest cities of the world are, the largest agglomerations in the world are, and you go to different authoritative sources, you will find that Tokyo is the biggest, and some say it has 65 million people, some 55 million, and some 45 million. They're all authoritative because they draw different borders around the area. There is no agreed upon way of growing that border. Now, why is that important? If you don't have an area, you can't get a density. That's simple arithmetic. And if you don't understand that, then you don't understand simple arithmetic. That's how you get a density, by having a known area within which you have numbers. I think it's interesting to know about where people live and know it comparatively. And it's interesting to be able to see success and failure in one city relative to yours, and you only can do that if information is collected similarly. You couldn't have an alphabet made up of a Korean letter and a Cyrillian letter and a Hebrew letter and an English letter. I mean, you couldn't have an alphabet that way. You have to have the same alphabet. It does not exist. It simply was overlooked in all of human progress here. It just wasn't done. So that's a project I'm doing. I have two partners. One is Radical Media. If you don't know them, you should. They're a wonderful company owned by John Kamen. They did Fog of War. They've done the new really interesting movie called Crude. They do Iconoclast. And they do the creative work for half the ads you see on television, like where the advertising agency gets credit, but if you saw those iPod ads with the dancing silhouettes, they do all that stuff. And they're an amazing group. And the third partner is ESRI, that has 4,000 employees, and it's the largest map maker in the world. It's behind all the GIS you see, behind the stuff in your car, behind every map you see. One building they have does National Geographic maps, another one does it for anybody, for all the countries and cities in the world. And when they have an annual meeting every year, which they have in July for their customers, just their customers come from around the world at their own expense to catch up on mapping. This summer in July in San Diego, 16,000 people came, and there's a company below the radar for you, all right? ESRI. And the owner of that company, a single owner, is Jack Dangerman. He's the third partner. And then we also have a company that controls Landsat. We are having difficulty convincing people why this is important to do and getting the $50 to $100 million we need to do it. But we are started on it, and that's where that project is, and it still fascinates me. I have no employees. So that takes care of 19, 20, 21. Some people ask me about, question, why did I start the TED Conference, and what is the TED Conference? Is there people here who do not know what the TED Conference is? You can put up your hand. It's not a test. You don't. Good. Okay. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. And in 1984, I started a meeting because I saw there was a convergence of those three disciplines, those three businesses, the technology business, the entertainment industry, and the design professions. And the subtitle was In the Service of Learning and Communication. It was a convergence. It's old hat. It's a really old idea now. Of course, we all realize they've all converged. But they didn't then, and I ran a conference in '84 and lost money because people wouldn't come because they didn't know what it was. And then the next time I ran it, people knew what it was, and it was filled ever since, and filled to overflowing. I sold it in 2002. They started a website of all these little talks called TED Talks. How many people here have ever gone on to TED Talks? Rather extraordinary fucking thing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is wonderful. June Cohen does that for them, and it's just terrific. And every other conference that I've started, I send the talks to them. because it's the right thing to do. It should be one wonderful place where you can find the best short talks. Of course, I always limited the talks to 18 minutes. You limit it to 15. I'll probably talk for an hour and a half here. And they all go online. TED Talks is truly...
It's good as long as it's only 10 more minutes.
Yeah, right. By the way, I will talk longer than that, and you can just walk out, and I will just keep on talking. Because I talk not for you, I talk for me. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I need to fill them up all the time. I invented a new conference form. This is one permutation of that conference form, and it seems to work extremely well. And the conference is about lots of little ideas. I will tell you, I think you should run more of it from the middle of the stage. If somebody does not have slides, the room is symmetrical, you should sit here. You shouldn't sit there, and you shouldn't have those chairs over there. And you shouldn't have the lights too bright on people's faces. I've gone and given speeches in places where they arrange your chairs in an empty room and they put an aisle down the middle so that the speaker is looking at an empty space. I mean, people are really dumb. That is consistent. That is consistent. Before I sold TED, I did 2 TED conferences called TED Med. And I realized that the best talks at TED, 80% of them somehow had to do with healthcare. I love the ones on Saturn's moons and the rings. And actually, the woman who does that, Carolyn Porco, who is head of imaging, is a friend of mine, just came down and spent a day with me because I'm really fond of the rings around Saturn, and it's one of my interests, and the Cassini project. So it's not that I'm not personally interested in it, it's just that I found that of the talks that were wonderful, awful lot of them were on well-being. And so I thought it wouldn't be limiting to do a conference called TED Med. And I did 4 of them. And then I said, oh, Christ, I'm tired of doing conferences. I didn't sell it when I sold TED. And so I haven't done one for 4 or 5 years. And I decided, no, it's interesting to me again. And the last 4 or 5 books I've done have been on healthcare. This is the last one on healthcare I did. And I was asked how many books I've done. It's 82. The 82nd one is out there. It's the first place it's ever been sold, and it won't be sold very many places. I don't think I'm going to put it on Amazon or in bookstores. I think it'll just be virally. If people find out about it, they'll get it, because I don't really care. And I had the best time, and you're right, I really had the best time writing 33. Anyway, TED Med, I can talk about TED Med. It's the 27th of this month because it's so far oversold. I'm not asking you to come. You can't get in. I'm doing it with a colleague, a young man who's 36 years old, who has never been to one of my conferences. So he doesn't have to, he's learning how to do a conference absolutely from the start, from zero. And it gets me a chance to reinvent what I'm doing. So I'm throwing out a number of the things I've done over the years and people have copied. And I'm really looking again, because I was realizing that I was doing a better version of what I'd already done. And when you do a better version of what you've already done, what do you get? A better version of what you've already done. That probably doesn't work as well. I mean, you're trying to make something better rather than going back to the beginning, to this place called zero, and figure out, well, how would you do it now? Not in 1984 or 1990 or year 2000. And so this has been exciting for me, and I'll do it for a couple years. And then he'll just do it. What's different about it is that all healthcare conferences that I know of specialize in something, in cancer or heart disease or how to pay for it all or whatever. or the technology of healthcare or robotics or something. And the first speaker of this conference is Craig Venter, who did the first genome sequencing. And the last speaker is David Blaine, the magician, who is going to tell how he held his breath for 17 minutes, 4.4 seconds on Oprah underwater. And there's a lot of distance between those two speakers. He's also going to, he's the last speaker, he's going to teach 15 or 20 people how to hyperventilate and hold their breath for 4 minutes, which I find astonishing. He just called me and said, could he do it? I said, sure. I mean, I can't imagine doing that because I couldn't possibly hold my breath for a minute, I don't think. So it's quite amazing. What's wrong? What did I do wrong?
Coming up to John, you don't do anything wrong. You and I are going to talk about 33. We're going to let everyone else take the half-hour break that they need before we get to the next session.
Well, it has no lights have come on.
No, lights. Like, you think I was going to put lights on? Like, you were going to look at lights?
Okay, I'll talk about 33.
No. So what we're going to,
I'll just talk about 33. That's what you want me to talk about, 33.
No, what I want you to, seriously, what we need to do, Richard, is we need to let these folks.
Is my time up already?
Yeah, long gone. I love you.
15 minutes
I
is
love
up
you.
already?
Richard, I will tell you this. Richard warned me when I went down there. Now, I thought he was just doing this because he was teasing me, but I should have known he was dead serious, that he was going to say, look, everybody can take a break if they want to. He's going to keep on talking about the book, and we'll lose the entire break opportunity, and we need to stay on.
I will do 1 minute. I'll talk about 33.
You can have 1 minute.
1 minute for 33.
Go ahead, but I'm going to stay up. But I'm staying right here.
Huh?
But I'm staying
no,
right
no,
here.
No. I'll talk 1 minute. In 1976, as a very young person, I was national chairman of the AIA convention in Philadelphia. It was the bicentennial convention, so it was a big deal. I was not a member of I was not anybody in the AIA, but they had to contend with me because I existed in Philadelphia and they couldn't deny me being chairman because I was more abrasive then than now. The name of the conference was called The Architecture of Information. Information architect, a term I invented, came out of that conference. I couldn't bear to have anybody else give the keynote, so I wrote a fable, which was performed. And it was called What If Could Be an Historical Fable of the Future. Some people lately have gotten after me to republish it. I don't republish things. I let things go out of print. So I decided not to republish it, but to build another book around it. And it's 33 years later. So the book is called 33, and it's the sequel to the first book 33 years ago. And the original book is inside the new book. And it is a thinly veiled autobiographical fable about the Commissioner of Curiosity of Imagination being banned for 33 years. I feel I've been banned from professional life for 33 years. He was banned to Kapangi Morongi, which is true. It is an atoll in the South Pacific, 470 miles south of Pohnpei in the Caroline section of the South Pacific. It has no electricity. They thought till 1850 they were the only people living on Earth until a warring party from the Marshall Islands came by and killed 1,000 of the 1,200 people. So a group of people 33 years later come and find him because they want him to fix the city as he did in 1976 when the city was broken before. He's bored by their whole conversation, doesn't give a shit about fixing it, because doesn't really care about that. However, they mention television. He loves television, and he comes back for a flat screen. And the book is 33 episodes of a TV show, which takes him all the way through to being, at the end, not sent off and banished again, but being put in the new cabinet, which I call the chest of drawers of the new commander-in-chief as the Secretary of Understanding. Okay, well, that's the end of the book, Secretary of Understanding. It becomes a very powerful job because the work of all other secretaries goes across his desk, and I'll tell one last thing, and then I will get off the stage, and I'm sorry.
How much is the book?
Huh?
How much is the book?
Well, the book is originally $33.33, but everybody gets a 33% discount, which comes to $22.33. But for you, friends of the commissioner, you get it for $22. We round it off. In any case, He also makes all the months 33 days. He gets rid of 2 months he hates, which are July and August, because they're named for despots, and they push off September, October, November, December, which were named for numbers. September for 7, they became the 9th month, et cetera, et cetera. Creates a new month called Remember, which you remember all the people who have died before you, your friends, your family. You remember people less successful than you. You help out people. It's a month of public service. And then there's 2 days left over called Bender because it's near New Year's. Okay. Leap year, it's a 3-day month. Okay. Then there's an epilogue, because I had 1 page left over. I had a 64-page book. And the epilogue is he reflects back on the fact of his first chest of drawers meetings where they're only talking about healthcare and wealth care. And then one little section of that I will tell, and then it's over. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was talking so long. Time goes so quickly when you're having a good time listening to yourself. So, the commissioner says, what if your knee hurts? Well, you can get a cane. You can have your knee replaced with a titanium one or a ceramic one, or now they have a new plastic plug. Just a month ago, they came out with a new plastic plug you can put in there. You can massage it. If it's an old knee, you can do nothing about it. You can move to a hotter climate or a drier climate. You can take one of about 1,310 pain pills. You can do many things for your knee. You can worship at church, and maybe it will go away. You could limp and use it as a means of beginning a conversation with somebody. If you're wealthy and indulgent, you could be carried by 4 people, right? Everything there is possible. There is no universal plan for caring for your knee. There can't be a universal plan for caring for your health. There should be more money spent on a universal plan of well-being, but not of caring for your health.
Thank you, Richard.